This is a tactical maneuver that the U.S. military utilizes only under the most extreme circumstances. An ultra-low altitude supersonic show of force, because the immense acoustic pressure generated by the fighter jet causes temporary tinnitus lasting up to 10 minutes, thereby buying priceless tactical windows for Navy SEALs cornered in absolute despair. Yet even with this desperate measure, they still came terrifyingly close to being completely wiped out. This movie stands as another pure, gritty, and professionally authentic war masterpiece following Lone Survivor. And every single event depicted in this film is a true story that unfolded during the Iraq War. In November 2006, a Navy SEAL squad infiltrated Ramadi on foot at 3 a.m., a territory heavily controlled by Al-Qaeda within Iraq. They chose this hour because it was the exact time when everyone was in their deepest sleep. They meticulously selected a 3-story residential building to serve as a clandestine observation post, ensuring that ground forces could safely pass through the sector the following day. With the assistance of an Iraqi interpreter, they successfully requisitioned the building. However, the access route leading to the roof was completely blocked.
Sir, there's a wall up here.
What they hadn't anticipated was that this single building was actually packed with multiple local families. The squad leader ordered a forced breach through the wall. Since they had already disturbed the civilians, there was no turning back. Yet it was this very action that sowed the seeds of their compromised position. Even though the squad leader, monitoring the drone's live feed, initially confirmed that the noise had not alerted the surrounding residents, the operators detained all civilians inside the building as hostages. Subsequently, they commenced their surveillance mission on the roof. But the glaring issue was that when insurgents blended into the dense crowds, the SEALs simply could not differentiate friend from foe. The team members pulled shifts for continuous monitoring, accurately recording and reporting every shred of gathered intelligence back to command.
Copy all.
Some operators grew so bored during the downtime that they even started doing push-ups. Following 10 grueling hours of surveillance, signs of fatigue began to surface across the unit. But right when they lowered their guard, the sniper spotted a critical anomaly. Groups of military-aged males were systematically entering the building across the street in patterns, and individuals on that roof were frequently peering toward the SEALs' position. Even more alarming, a man was seen intentionally blocking a weapon from view as he slipped into the opposite house.
PKM. Fuck.
The squad leader immediately reported to command that the opposite structure was an active insurgent stronghold.
Look up.
At this juncture, their mission parameters had technically been met. However, what they didn't know was that retreat was already an impossibility, because the once bustling market below had suddenly turned into a ghost town. Not a single soul was left in sight. Fortunately, they reacted instantly and ducked for cover. Nobody sustained fatal injuries. A relentless hail of bullets tore through the windows from the outside, yet they remained entirely unable to pinpoint the enemy's firing positions.
Move!
The communications officer immediately radioed for close air support, only to receive grim news. Every single U.S. outpost in the sector was simultaneously under coordinated insurgent assault. The squad leader ordered a casualty assessment.
How bad is it?
Upon inspection, the sniper's arm was compromised, rendering him combat ineffective. They had to initiate the medical evacuation protocol. However, the nearest ground QRF, Quick Reaction Force, would take at least 10 minutes to reach their location.
All right.
The squad leader decisively gave the order to assemble the team and execute the exfiltration plan. After verifying that not a single piece of gear was left behind, they detonated their pre-staged claymores and directional charges.
Fire in the hole!
Utilizing the thick plume of smoke as visual concealment, they began falling back to the first floor. Once the ground floor was cleared and secured, the leader locked in the breakout formation, spearheaded by 2 Iraqi interpreters. Upon hearing the distinct metallic clanking of the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle's tracks, the leader deployed a smoke grenade.
Breakout! Breakout!
The squad officially commenced their breakout.
Hold up.
The 2 Iraqi personnel used the smoke cover to push outside. After confirming the perimeter was clear,
Go.
the rest of the unit stepped out of the structure and advanced toward the armored vehicle. This was a deliberate trap laid by the insurgents, an anti-tank mine. 1 Iraqi interpreter was killed instantly on the spot, while 2 U.S. operators were knocked unconscious by the sheer concussive blast.
Oh my God, fuck! Oh my God!
The enemy in the distance launched an all-out assault. Under the fierce suppressing fire of their teammates, the wounded were dragged back inside the structure. Piercing screams of agony echoed through the rooms. Fear, rage, guilt, and absolute helplessness enveloped everyone's hearts. The squad leader contacted the nearest outpost once more, pleading for backup.
Now!
But the other strongholds were utterly pinned down under siege, unable to break away. The enemy outside continuously hurled fragmentation grenades, forcing the squad to repeatedly retreat deeper into the interior rooms. Their defensive perimeter was constantly compressed, and the condition of the wounded was rapidly deteriorating. The squad leader plunged into absolute despair. But right at that moment, salvation arrived over the comms. 2 F-18 Hornets were entering the airspace. However, due to the extreme proximity between friend and foe, heavy ordnance could not be deployed. They could only execute an ultra-low altitude show of force. Everyone without hearing protection was plunged into immediate temporary deafness. The squad leader seized this chaotic window to treat the casualties. Simultaneously, Navy SEAL Team B, positioned 200 meters away, capitalized on the distraction to engage the insurgents in a fierce firefight, slowly cutting their way toward Team A inside the building.
We have eyes on you.
Confronting enemies closing in from all 4 quadrants, Team B remained ice cool under pressure, gripping their M4 carbines. Relying on bounding overwatch and precision marksmanship, they rapidly advanced their formation right up to Team A's doorstep. Massive waves of hostile fighters were converging on their position. The 2 units merged their elements, establishing a unified wall of suppressing fire to sweep away obstacles for the arriving M2 Bradleys. The operators strictly adhered to standard operating procedures, recovering every single piece of U.S. equipment. Even a hammer dropped near the entrance, because any item left behind could become a trophy for the enemy to display in propaganda. However, the enemy's incoming fire was far too overwhelming, preventing the operators on the second floor from establishing an elevated shooting advantage. As the armored vehicles pushed to within 100 meters of the structure, the squad called in the F-18S for a second ultra-low altitude run. Taking advantage of the disruption, a Bradley successfully reached the entrance. The assaulters responsible for fire suppression rushed out of the building first, their massive firepower pinning the militants down so heavily they couldn't even lift their heads to retaliate. The team seized the gap, rapidly transferring the casualties. As the Bradley's ramp slowly sealed shut, the first wave of wounded was successfully evacuated. The remaining operators utilized alternating cover to fall back inside the building, waiting for the other 2 Bradleys to extract them. Suddenly, a drone feed relayed critical intelligence. A massive concentration of armed militants had amassed inside 2 adjacent buildings, planning a coordinated breach from the second floor.
Going hot!
Suck in, find cover!
The M2 Bradleys locked onto the targets and unleashed a devastating grid-white barrage, entirely pulverizing the enemy's offensive ambitions. The SEALs, fully geared and locked, received the green light and immediately charged out of the building, maintaining their combat formation as they pushed outward. Ultimately relying on their technologically superior arsenal, they pulled off a successful exfiltration. Yet even more militants began swarming back onto the shattered, war-torn streets. Sitting inside the retreating armored vehicle, the squad leader's mind continuously flashed back to the haunting question shouted at him by a civilian during the extraction.
Why?
This movie features absolutely no emotion-inducing background score, nor does it have an absolute protagonist. It presents nothing but the rawest, most unvarnished face of warfare. Over the course of 90 minutes, the director pushes the audiovisual experience to its absolute limit, delivering a pure, authentic battlefield environment. I highly recommend everyone check out the original film.